Hello, everyone! Welcome to Ollie's Top 10!
All right, today we're going to dive into one of my absolute favorite Sherlock Holmes cases, The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle. This story is just a perfect look at how the master detective's mind works, how he can take the tiniest, most random clues and unravel a huge crime. So let's get into it. So get this, here's the puzzle at the heart of the story. You've got a beat-up old hat and a Christmas goose. I mean, they sound completely ordinary, maybe even a little silly, right? Well, somehow, these two things hold the key to a massive jewel theft that had the London police running in circles. How on earth does that happen?
You know, the funny thing is, the story kicks off in Holmes's apartment at 221 Baker Street right after Christmas. And even Holmes himself, when he first hears about it, just waves it off, calling it a perfectly trivial one. Little does he know, this small curiosity is about to explode into a major investigation.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, how did a hat and a goose end up at Sherlock Holmes's place? Well, it starts with a man named Peterson. He's a commissionaire, which is kind of like a doorman. He sees this scuffle on the street on Christmas morning, and when it's all over, he finds a battered old hat and a goose just left behind. He figures Holmes might get a kick out of it, so he brings them both over.
Now, the problem Holmes is given seems pretty simple. The hat has the initials HB on it. The goose had a little card attached that said, "For Mrs. Henry Baker." But come on, in a city as huge as London, trying to find the right Henry Baker is basically impossible. It's a total needle in a haystack. And since the goose isn't getting any fresher, Peterson just takes it home to cook, leaving Holmes with nothing but the hat.
And this, right here, is where the magic really begins. See, for Sherlock Holmes, this isn't just an old, worn-out hat. Oh no, it's a treasure map of clues. He doesn't just see an object, he sees a whole story. He's about to turn this simple hat into a full-blown biography of the man who wore it. So, let me ask you the same thing Holmes basically asks Watson. What can you really learn from a hat? I mean, for most of us, it's just a piece of old felt, right? But for Holmes, it's a window into a man's entire life, his job, his money problems, even the state of his marriage.
So this is how his brain works. It's incredible. He's not just guessing, he's building a case from evidence. The hat is big, which suggests the owner is an intellectual, a brainy guy. It was once high quality, but it's old and worn, so the man used to have money but has fallen on hard times. It has these little tallow stains, which means he uses a candle at home, not gaslight. But here's the most amazing leap of all. The hat is covered in house dust. It hasn't been brushed in weeks. And from that, Holmes makes this wild inference. The man's wife doesn't love him anymore. Because if she did, she'd take care of his appearance. It's just brilliant.
And this quote just sums it all up, doesn't it? This is the core of his whole method. Watson just sees a dirty old hat, but Holmes sees the story behind why it's dirty and old. It's not about having supervision. It's all about connecting the dots. It's about reasoning, not just seeing. So just as Holmes is wrapping up his little analysis thinking this was all just a fun mental puzzle, everything is about to change. That trivial problem is about to become a serious criminal investigation. The stakes are about to get way higher. Suddenly, the door to the apartment just flies open, and Peterson, the commissioner, comes rushing back in, totally out of breath and just stunned. He's babbling about the goose, you know, the one his wife was getting ready for dinner. You can just feel the panic in the room suddenly spike. So, what happened? Peterson explains that while his wife was preparing the goose, she felt something hard inside its throat, inside its crop, and it was something that definitely did not belong in a goose. And this is what she found. Not just some rock. It's the Blue Carbuncle, a legendary, absolutely priceless gem that belonged to a wealthy countess. And guess what? It had been stolen from her hotel room just a few days before Christmas. This was a huge story. It was all over the newspapers. And the stakes? There was a reward of £1,000 for its return. Now that was a staggering amount of money back then. But as Holmes points out, it was barely a fraction of what the stone was actually worth. Yeah, this is not a game anymore. So let's look at the two different realities here. On one hand, you have the police. They've arrested this plumber, John Horner. He has a criminal record. He was at the hotel. So it looks bad for him, even though he swears he's innocent. On the other hand, you have Holmes, who is literally holding the stolen diamond, which he just got out of a Christmas goose, that belonged to some guy whose wife might not love him anymore. The two pictures could not be more different. Okay, so the path forward is clear. Holmes has to trace the evidence backward. The stone was in the goose belonged to Henry Baker. Finding this guy is now priority number 1. So Holmes immediately puts ads in all the evening papers hoping to lure him out. Now, while he's waiting for Baker to show up, Holmes starts working the problem from the other end. He cleverly tracks down the salesman who sold the goose and traces its entire journey, step by step. And this is the path it took, from the farm where it was raised, to a market salesman, to an innkeeper who ran a goose club, and finally, all the way to Mr. Henry Baker. And sure enough, Henry Baker sees the ad and shows up. After just a quick chat, Holmes confirms that every single one of his deductions about the man's life was spot on. But more importantly, he realizes Baker is completely innocent. The poor guy had no idea he'd been walking around London carrying a stolen fortune. He just wanted a new goose for dinner.
All right, so with Henry Baker officially in the clear, Holmes goes back to the market. His investigation leads him straight to the real thief who, it turns out, is also frantically trying to track down that specific goose. Holmes corners the terrified man, brings him back to Baker Street, and the whole crazy story just comes tumbling out. So here's what really went down. The thief was a guy named James Ryder, who worked at the hotel. He stole the gem and set up the plumber, Horner, to take the fall. To sneak it out, he came up with this genius plan: hide it inside a Christmas goose from a sister's farm. The only problem? In his panic, he mixed up 2 geese that looked exactly the same. He took the wrong bird home, and the one with the diamond went off to the market, eventually finding its way to Henry Baker. What a mistake.
So there you have it. Holmes has his man. Case closed. But what he does next is really what makes this story so special. He's standing there with the guilty man, and he has a choice to make. Does he call the police and follow the letter of the law, or does he show mercy?
And this is his reason. In a truly surprising move, Holmes decides to let Ryder go free. His logic is that sending this pathetic, terrified man to prison would just turn him into a hardened criminal for life. But maybe, just maybe, this act of mercy, especially at Christmas time, could be the one thing that scares him straight and actually saves his soul. And so, in the end, justice kind of finds its own way. The real thief is so scared he flees the country, probably never to commit a crime again. The innocent man, John Horner, is set to be released because with Ryder gone, the case against him completely falls apart. And of course, the Countess gets her beautiful blue gem back. It's a perfect ending, really, and it all started with a lost hat and a goose. And that brings us to the final question, the one I want to leave you with. Sherlock Holmes, the man we so often think of as a cold, calculating machine, made a choice based on mercy, not just logic. He bent the law to, as he put it, save a soul. So I ask you, if you were in his shoes, faced with that choice, what would you have done?
Ollie says, hope you liked the video. Thanks for listening.